I never imagined I'd fall in love with my maid on a BET, but her secret left me shocked. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started with a simple wager. A drink, a laugh, and a stupid challenge among friends. You won tea, let a maid stick around you for a week, my buddy teased, his voice dripping with amusement. That's when it happened. I thought I knew what to expect. But the moment I laid eyes on Camila, everything changed. She stood there, measuring the chaos of my life in her gentle gaze. Wisps of black hair framed her face, diligently tucked beneath a faded green headscarf. She wore raggedy clothes, but the way she carried herself, graceful and defiant, made the fabric almost magical. I would soon discover she was so much more than a maid. As the days went by, Camila stepped into her role, but she did it with an air of elegance. Her hands were callous but moved with precision, gliding through dust like a dancer on stage. I noticed the way her laugh chimed in the quiet of my empty home, breaking through the silence that felt like chains. Yet there was something deeper, a sadness hidden within her eyes, a secret that beckoned me closer. She was different. When she scrubbed the floors, I could see her heart beat. Each stroke of the brush was filled with passion. I felt drawn to her in ways I couldn't comprehend. I watched her at night, sitting in the dim light while the moon cast shadows over her face. I wanted to know what made her smile, what haunted her dreams. But the more I learned, the more questions I had. Rumors followed her. Whispers of a past entwined with dark secrets. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, a mix of fear and intrigue. Why was she here? What had driven her to this life? My friends joked about the bet, but I found myself entangled in a web of emotion I never asked for. Then one evening I caught her staring out the window. The clouds hung low, heavy with the promise of rain. I could see tears shimmering in her eyes. I wanted to reach out to comfort her, but something held me back. What was I to her? Just a man on the other side of a closed world? Camila, I whispered, my voice breaking the heavy silence. She turned, her expression shifting from vulnerability to guarded tension. I felt a lump in my throat. The air between us crackled with uncertainty. Just then, a sharp knock echoed from the door and shattered the moment. My heart raced. What or who could it be? I shot a glance at Camila, her eyes widened in fear. She dove into the shadows, disappearing into the dark corners of my house, leaving me bewildered, desperate to find her. What mystery lurked behind her fear? Was I prepared for what came next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I opened the door, the weight of uncertainty loomed heavy in the air. The evening light slipped into the room, casting an amber glow across the floor, but all my senses were attuned to what lay beyond. I braced myself, expecting something routine, perhaps a delivery or an unexpected guest. Instead, I found myself staring into a familiar face twisted with anger, the unmistakable countenance of Victor, the man with whom my relationship had begun to unravel the moment Camila stepped into my life. What do you want, Victor? I managed, each word laced with caution. Inside, my heart raced, yelling at me to close the door and make everything disappear. I heard you've been spending time with my maid, he said, his tone dripping with disdain. What's so special about her? Think she captivates you with her charm? I swallowed hard, wrestling with the instinct to protect Camila, and the complicated knot of emotions tightening in my chest. It's complicated, I replied, glancing back into the depths of the house, where I hoped she would simply step forward and dispel the tension. I took a step back, channeling resolve despite my uncertainty. Victor snorted. As if on cue, a drizzle of rain began to fall outside, tapping softly against the window. There's nothing complicated, my friend. She's just a girl with a fairy tale dream that probably involves rich men saving her from her miserable life. You're nothing more than a source of temporary distraction. I clenched my fists. I wanted to scream at him to leave, to not let his words sink in, but the truth he spoke twisted inside me. Had I been drawn to fantasy? And if so, did that make my feelings for Camila any less real? I fought against the rising doubt, forcing myself to breathe deeply. Camila is more than just a maid. You don't know her, I said, forcing the words through gritted teeth. She has been through so much. At that, Victor chuckled, the sound sharp and cruel. What is your plan, then? To save her from a life of hard scrubbing? Or hoping she'll fall in love with you like she would an overly romantic character from those silly novels? His laughter echoed in the confined space, and for a moment, I felt its weight stifle my defiance. But before I could respond, a sound from behind me caught my attention. Camila had emerged from her hiding place, and my heart plummeted seeing the fear etched across her face. Camila, I warned softly, trying to convey strength through my gaze. But she was moving back, retreating into her shadowy refuge. I felt the walls of the room closing in, the atmosphere thickening with brewing storms, both outside and within us. What, are you going to defend her? You don't know who she really is, Victor taunted, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Just a person, Victor. Stop treating her like an object, I shot back, my resolve hardening despite the flicker of fear in my heart. Then unexpectedly, Camila stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady. It's true, she spoke with quiet strength. I have known hardships, but you do not understand me either. Her gaze shifted to mine, seeking affirmation, asking me to stand with her in that moment. The tension between us hung thick, but something sparkled in her eyes, ignited by a flicker of bravery. For once, Victor seemed taken aback, his confidence faltering. A small flame of hope blossomed in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, we could weather this storm together. But before that moment could flourish, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house, sending our hearts racing. Victor's eyes widened, and within seconds he bolted inside. What was that? Stay here, I whispered to Camila, urgency propelling my movements as I followed Victor's lead. But before I could reach him, a figure darted past, cloaked in the shimmering reflections of raindrops cascading through the windows. A silhouette ran past the kitchen, out of sight, and my heart raced. Who could it be? The air around us crackled with tension. Everything felt surreal, as if we had stepped into the climax of a gripping drama. Get away from the window! I shouted at Victor, but my voice came out more as a plea than a command. I turned to Camila, but she seemed frozen, her face painted with an array of emotions: fear, worry, and something else I couldn't quite read. What is happening? She asked, barely above a whisper. In that heartbeat, I knew we were standing on the precipice of an unknown truth, a revelation that would pull our lives apart at the seams. I could feel the shift in the air, the weight of an impending storm that threatened to unravel everything we'd begun to weave together. Camila, whatever is about to happen, I promise I'll be here. My voice held firm despite the uncertainty swirling around us. Before she could respond, the back door creaked once more, swinging wide open against the gusts of wind, and all I could think was what comes next could change everything. The howl of the wind filled the room, seeping into the cracks of our anxiety, a haunting melody drowning the silence left in the wake of the door's sudden entrance. Camila's eyes grew wide, reflecting the chaotic dance of shadows that flitted across the walls, manipulated by the sparse light filtering through the rainy dusk. Stay close to me, I urged, my heart pounding in my chest as I instinctively stepped in front of her, ready to shield her from whatever chaos awaited. In that moment, the sound of footsteps echoed across the tile floor, a harsh reminder that we were not alone and that our sanctuary had transformed into a stage for treachery. Victor's bravado had dissipated, replaced by an unfamiliar fear born of the unknown. What the hell is going on? His voice broke, laced with an urgency that was once absent. He glanced toward the back door, uncertainty wiring his features. I couldn't share in his fear. Instead, I felt an exhilarating rush of adrenaline coursing through me. We need to get out of here, I said, my words an anchor in the tumult. But even as I spoke, the creeping sensation that something deeper lurked at the edges of the storm fogged my certainty. Camila had begun to tremble beside me, and I could see her fingers digging into the fabric of her skirt, a silent plea for reassurance that all would be well. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, and was struck by the warmth of her grip. It grounded me, and I could feel a subtle but potent bond sparking between us, ignited in the presence of fear. Suddenly, the unknown figure reappeared, emerging from the hallway, drenched but unhindered by the droplets that tagged themselves to her clothes. It was Valeria, the housekeeper's daughter, her face flushed and wide-eyed with panic. I saw someone. She breathed, strands of hair pasted to her forehead. In the garden. They looked dangerous. Victor swiveled toward her as if she had conjured an apparition. What do you mean? Who? His voice was sharp, a sound laced with authority that felt powerless in the grip of our collective tension. I don't know. Valeria pressed her palms against her cheeks, searching for any semblance of control in the chaos. But they were watching. I thought I was imagining things, but I swear I saw someone watching the house. My heart raced. The implications flooded my mind. What if someone was here to find Camila? What if this was the consequence of her mysterious past? I felt the urge to protect her surge again, but it came with an unsettling question. What needed protecting her from, if it meant unearthing a truth I was unprepared to face? Valeria, you need to call for help, I said, urgency clawing at the edges of my composure. Get your mom, call the police. We can't stay here. No. Victor snapped, but I held my ground. The look of concern mixing with fear on Camila's face struck me like a bolt of lightning. Please, Camila, I whispered, my voice softened to quell the tempest in her eyes. Trust me. I don't want to get involved, she murmured, uncertainty trembling in her words. The vulnerability in her expression was palpable, and it cut deep. There was something raw and fragile beneath her demeanor, like a spun glass ornament hanging precariously over an abyss. Camila, please. If we ever meant anything to each other, we need to stick together right now, I pleaded, feeling the weight of my words settle between us. In her eyes I saw the flicker of resilience igniting as she took a deep, steadying breath. Okay. Together, she affirmed, her voice fragile but resolute, and for a moment, the storm outside felt distant. The wind howled again, an echo of tumult in our world, and together we turned toward Victor, who was scrambling for control amidst the chaos. You ready? I muttered, and my heart surged with an unexpected blend of hope and fear. Let us get out of here, he replied, albeit begrudgingly, his bravado slipping as the realization of the unfolding danger seeped into his demeanor. Amid the urgency, Valeria seemed suspended in time, and with her vacant stare, I knew something was still amiss. I turned back towards her, half expecting her to enlighten us on a new twist in our darkening tale. But before she could voice her thoughts, the lights above flickered violently, illuminating the far end of the hallway for one fleeting second, and in that brief moment, I caught sight of something. A shadowy outline slipped across the edge of the doorway into the hallway. It lurked there for just a second before vanishing again, leaving me grappling with both dread and curiosity. Did you see that? I breathed, the words bursting forth as the implications coiled tighter in my gut. Camila's eyes widened, reflecting the terror mirrored in my own. That wasn't just my imagination, was it? She whispered, gripping my hand so tightly it stung. No, I replied, knowing that a world unraveling beyond our knowledge had just revealed itself. We need to find out who or what was in this house with us. As we moved towards the hallway, the essence of dread wove through our steps. Each sound echoed louder, and my pulse raced in resounding fear. What we had stumbled into was more than an imminent threat. It was the darkness intertwined with secrets yet to be uncovered, ushering in a chill that haunted the very air around us. We had triggered something we couldn't yet comprehend, and as we stepped closer to the unknown, my heart echoed the promises I had made to Camila just moments before. The storm within was only beginning, and we were unprepared for the precipice. With every step, the world felt deceptively still, just waiting for that moment of truth to shatter our fragile resolve. And I couldn't suppress the underlying dread that something far worse awaited us down that hallway. As we hesitated at the mouth of the hallway, the weight of silence wrapped around us like a heavy cloak. The flickering lights cast dancing shadows on the walls, shapes that twisted and morphed, reminding me that not everything was as it seemed. Victor was the first to break the spell, stepping cautiously into the darkness. Stick together, he instructed, his tone firm but strained. Camila squeezed my hand tighter, her warmth both a comfort and a reminder of the stakes involved. I could sense her pulse racing through our contact, each heartbeat echoing her growing fear. I forced myself to take a step forward, leading the way into the uncertainty of the corridor. The air felt thick, suffocating, as if we were walking through a memory that was not our own. I glanced back at Camila, and despite her anxious demeanor, There was a flicker of determination in her eyes. If only I could seize that strength and wrap it around us like a protective barrier against whatever lurked ahead. "Keep your voice down," I whispered, acutely aware of every creak in the floorboards that accompanied our steps. I listened intently, hoping to catch any sign of life or danger on the other side of the darkness. But with every passing moment, the silence grew more imposing, and I realized that we were beginning to lose track of time. "Maybe we should split up?" Victor suggested, glancing between us as if gauging the weight of that decision. My instinct recoiled at the thought, but I could see the frustration bubbling beneath his surface. "No," I said more firmly than I intended. "If we separate, who knows what could happen? Staying together is our only chance." Camila nodded, her resolve strengthening with my conviction. "Together always," she echoed, her voice gaining firmness despite the tremors beneath. We moved deeper into the house, shadows flickering through the corners of our eyes. At the end of the hallway, a door stood ajar, swaying slightly as if beckoning us to step through. A draft slipped past me with a whisper that seemed to carry secrets untold. With Victor carefully nudging it open, the door creaked loud enough to stir a reaction. "What if he's inside?" he asked, an edge of panic threaded in his voice. "What if it's something worse?" I replied, my stomach nodding with each word. But I stepped forward nonetheless, a mixture of fear and adrenaline propelling me toward the doorway. As we crossed the threshold, the world shifted. The room was a study, dimly lit and filled with old leather-bound books that lined the walls, a testament to someone's long history. A desk sat in the center, papers strewn across it in a chaotic array, and the large window revealed an unkempt garden, the remnants of a tempestuous storm marring its beauty. "What is this place?" Valeria asked, her voice echoing back from the shadows. I could sense the tremor in her words, the shared unease binding us all together. I stepped toward the desk, curious yet hesitant. Faded photographs caught my eye, their edges curling with age. They showed families I did not recognize, happy smiles frozen in time until one particular photo made my breath catch in my throat. In it was a woman who mirrored Camila's features exactly. My heart dropped as I stared into those familiar eyes, lifetimes apart but strikingly similar. "Camila," I whispered, lifting the picture with trembling fingers. "You need to see this." She approached tentatively, and as the truth dawned on her, the color drained from her face. "Who is she?" Her voice faltered, caught between disbelief and dread. I don't know," I stammered, my heart racing as the implications settled between us. "But she looks just like you." Camila snatched the photo from my grasp and examined it, her brows knitting together in confusion and fear. "What does this mean? Why would I be in this place?" But before I could offer an answer, a noise shattered the fragile silence, a soft, unmistakable scuffling sound coming from the corner of the room, which we had overlooked in our obsession with the photograph. "Anyone there?" Victor called out, his voice steady but laced with tension. "That's not us," I replied, instinctively shushing him as I strained to listen. My heart matched the rhythm of dread in the air, pounding harder with every second that passed. Camila's breath quickened as she clutched the photograph closer, a fragile treasure amid the chaos. But just as I thought I might unravel this mystery, a figure materialized from the edge of the darkness. Clad in a long coat and wide-brimmed hat, they stepped cautiously into the light. "What are you doing here?" The figure's voice floated through the air, calm yet suffused with an unmistakable tension that set my nerves on edge. "Who are you?" I demanded, the words escaping my lips almost instinctively. In that fleeting moment, I realized that whatever secret Camila held didn't just belong to her. This stranger might possess answers to questions we were too afraid to ask. Shivers ran down my spine as the newcomer's eyes locked onto Camila's. "Did you think you could escape your past?" they asked, their tone laced with challenge, igniting the uncertainty that had now engulfed us fully. The weight of those words hung heavily in the room, creating an oppressive silence that amplified the gravity of our unknown connection. I could see Camila's resolve wavering, uncertainty etched across her features, and in that moment, the fragility of everything we had fought for hung on the precipice of revelation, and by the flicker of the overhead light, a new sense of urgency settled in my bones. Whatever awaited on the other side of the truth could unravel the very foundations of the bond we had forged amid the storm. The tension in the room thickened, the air charged with the weight of unanswered questions. I could see Camila's face pale further, her features twisting in a blend of fear and confusion. The stranger's presence felt like an electric pulse running through the room, sparking thoughts that spun wildly in my mind. Did you think you could escape your past? They repeated, as if demanding a response, their gaze unyielding as it danced between Camila and me. I could sense the unspoken histories swirling around us, secrets begging to be unearthed. Victor moved protectively in front of Camila, his silhouette casting a shadow that loomed larger against the backdrop of the flickering light. "We don't know what you're talking about," he blurted out, betraying a nervousness that only added fuel to the fire of uncertainty igniting between us. The stranger tilted their head slightly, a ghost of a smile playing on the edges of their lips. "You do know though. Camila, you can pretend all you want, but the threads of your history are woven into this place. You cannot run from who you are." "Stop." Camila's voice broke like glass against the stillness. "You don't know me." But the tremor in her words betrayed her. I could see her battling against the gravity of her past while clinging to the fragile hope of a radiant future we had started to craft together. With a sudden wave of courage, I took a step forward, without breaking eye contact with the stranger. "What do you know? Who are you?" I pressed, trying to pull more information from this mysterious figure. Each word felt laced with desperation, prompting the stranger to straighten as if preparing to unfurl the unknown. "I know that your life isn't what you think it is, Camila," they said softly, as if weighing the weight of their own revelation. "The man who resides here, he held your fate tightly in his hands long before you ever stepped into this place. It's complicated, and it's not just the storm outside that's been brewing." The walls around us echoed with the resonance of those words, each syllable striking deep within the fabric of our reality. Camila's breaths quickened, matching the rattling of my heart. "No, that's impossible." But the eyes of the stranger, intense and piercing, did not waver. "What do you mean?" I pressed, catching a glimpse of the shadowy figure's vulnerability. "What does that even mean for her?" "Your connection runs deeper than you know. The woman in that photo is not only a phantom of the past, she is intertwined with your future, Camila," the stranger explained. "If you want to understand what you truly are, you must unearth the buried memories that lie within these walls." A flicker of hope sparked in my chest, a yearning to unravel the tangled web of Camila's origin. Could this be the key we needed to break through the barriers that had stood so stubbornly between us? My mind raced with the possibilities, but I could also see the dread creeping into Camila's gaze. The prospect of facing her own hidden past was a tempest threatening to pull her under. "I have to go," she whispered, taking a step back, retreating from both the stranger and myself. "No, don't you dare walk away, Camila," I called out, a raw plea dripping from my voice. "What if this is our chance?" Victor turned to me, his expression one of surprise, but I felt a surge of conviction strong enough to challenge the storm brewing inside of us. This was not just about Camila. It was about the bond we had built together in spite of every storm that had tried to tear us apart. "Do you think running will change anything?" I shot at her, desperately seeking to bridge the distance forming like an abyss. "You deserve to know the truth, even if it's terrifying." But as the stranger shifted subtly, I noticed their eyes darting toward the door, their posture growing tense. "You should all leave this place," they urged suddenly, an urgency threading through their words. "If they find out you're here, it could be disastrous." "Who's they?" I demanded, my voice trembling, tension rippling through the room like a charge of static electricity. "The ones who guard the past," the stranger offered cryptically. "And they'd rather see it buried than allow you freedom to choose your own destiny." With that, an echo of footsteps began to resonate outside the room. I felt a chill run through my body, a primal instinct to protect making my blood rush. The stranger's eyes widened, urgency written across their features. "We have to hide," Victor exclaimed, pulling us toward a heavy bookshelf in the corner, its shelves lined with dust and secrets alike. Camila hesitated, fear and uncertainty painting her face like a canvas torn between light and darkness. "Camila, please," I whispered, taking her hand firmly in mine, squeezing it as if to transfer enough strength to face whatever lay ahead. "Don't let the shadows of the past define you." Just as we ducked behind the shelves, the door creaked open slowly, revealing a tall, imposing figure silhouetted against the light from the hallway. I could barely make out their face, but the aura of menace was palpable, sending a shiver up my spine. "Where are you?" The figure called, the word laden with a feeling that sent dread pooling deep in my stomach. Did I in that moment? Beneath the weight of the unseen threats closing in around us, everything hinged on the truth Camila if chose to embrace. But just as I wondered how we would navigate this darkness together, the stranger's final warning echoed in my mind. Once the truth is uncovered, it will shatter everything you once knew. And with that startling revelation, the unknown path twisted deeper before us, stretching into unfathomable possibilities that would forever alter the fabric of our lives. The shadows coiled around us, pressing in as the figure outside the bookshelf took a step closer. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs, a cacophony of fear and fierce determination. Camila's grip tightened around my hand, her breath shallow as we all waited, suspended in time, hoping against hope that the interloper wouldn't discover us. "Maybe if I just leave," Camila whispered, her eyes fraught with panic, searching mine as if hoping for an escape route. Even in that moment, beneath the weight of the world crashing down around us, I felt a flicker of fury ignite in my chest. This wasn't the time for retreat. It was time for truth. "No," I whispered back fiercely, feigning a bravery I barely felt. "You deserve answers, Camila. You deserve to confront whatever it is that's haunting you." Yet even as those words escaped, the uncertain blend of hope and despair painted her features. "But what if those answers are worse than I can imagine?" she asked, her voice trembling. The figure in the doorway shifted again, and I could hear their voice growling with annoyance. "I don't have time for games. You can run, but I will find you." The menace in their tone lingered like a dark fog, clutching the edges of our resolve. Instinctively, I pulled Camila closer to me, shielding her from the danger shadowed just beyond our sanctuary. Victor stood still, the adrenaline flowing through him as he pressed his back against the bookshelf, waiting, watching. As we held our breaths in collective silence, suddenly, a crash echoed from the other side of the room, startling all of us into further stillness. It was as if the very house knew about the secrets trapped within its walls, the hidden past gnawing at our ability to secure a present. "You better hope the storm outside does not cause too much destruction tonight," the stranger's voice cut through our silence. "It would be such a pity if these walls crumbled under the weight of unsaid truths." The imposing figure grunted in frustration. "Enough with the riddles. Come out now." A creak shook through the hall, echoing a tale of abandoned promises and unforgiving repercussions. "Can you help her?" I whispered urgently to the stranger, my words rushing out in a fluency born of desperation. "What are you to her?" Their gaze flickered towards me, and for a heartbeat, I saw something break behind their stoic demeanor. Recognition, perhaps, or even empathy. "I am merely the voice of the past, but I have the power to guide her through it," they responded softly. "If she is brave enough to face what lies beyond." Camila's breath caught in her throat, and I could feel her trepidation radiating off her in waves. "Do I have to?" she asked, glancing at me, seeking affirmation. The figure inched closer again, then relaxed slightly. "You have the choice. But if you choose to walk away again, they will not let you go. And I cannot protect you forever." Terror painted itself across Camila's features, and I could see that battle within her grow fiercer with each passing second. At that moment, resolve bubbled up within me, anchoring my faith in her. "You don't have to do this alone," I said firmly, looking deep into her eyes, trying to convey my unwavering support. "I will stand by you. We'll face this together." My words felt like a lifeline, barely enough to keep the raging sea at bay, but I hoped it would be strong enough. A small flicker of hope ignited in her gaze before dimming again as she weighed the enormity of the choice laid before her. "What if I can't do it? What if the truth is too much? Then we'll find a way to carry the burden together," I reassured her gently. But truthfully, my heart raced with uncertainty at the prospect of what might occur. I too was afraid of the shadows that danced beyond the safety of the bookshelf. The figure outside seemed to sense our moment of hesitation. "Your past is not here to torment you, Camila. It is here to set you free," they urged, the sincerity in their voice cutting through the tension like a breath of fresh air. "But time is of the essence." Just then a loud crash erupted from the dark hallway, shaking the air around us and jolting reality into focus. We peered through the narrow gap of the bookshelf, our breaths hitching as another shadow appeared, this time accompanied by two more figures, each bearing an aura of undeniable hostility, their intent pulsing through the air like thunder. Camila, they're coming. Victor hissed. I turned to Camila, seeing raw determination reflected in her eyes. You have to decide now, I urged, our lives hanging by the fragile thread of fate. Together, or do we run? Before she could respond, the malevolent figure outside cursed and lunged toward the bookshelf, intent on our discovery. The imminent threat clawed at our throats, and with one last glance at Camila, I felt an overwhelming surge of adrenaline. I'm not afraid anymore, she declared, her voice rising above the chaos. If this is my past, then let me see it. The shadowy figure, momentarily stunned by her words, hesitated, and in that brief instant, I felt time elongate like wading through a surreal dream. And yet that was the only moment we had, as darkness encroached with sharp, jagged edges. Just as the figure surged forward, intent on confrontation, I grasped Camila's hand tighter. The world spun, the air thickened with almost palpable weight. Our hearts raced as we stood on the precipice of a revelation, a confrontation fraught with peril and possibility, pulsing with the promise of both danger and uncharted horizons. In that fleeting moment, with the shadows closing in around us, all I could think was how little I truly knew, and how everything might change in one fateful instant. But the truth, that elusive, shimmering beacon was coming, whether we were prepared or not. The darkness swallowed us as the unseen figures advanced, their intentions palpable and frightening. Camila's heart was racing, and I could feel the tremble of her hand in mine. I knew we were standing at the brink of something irreversible, a moment woven with threads of fear, honesty, and inexplicable courage. The sharp crunch of boots against the wooden floors echoed ominously, preparing to dismantle the fragile barrier between us and the unknown truth. Then, just as the first of the men lunged at us, a blinding flash of light erupted from the other side of the room, casting elongated shadows that danced erratically on the walls. Now, the figure outside the bookshelf shouted, rallying the others forward. The distraction bought us mere seconds, but it was enough for Camila to yank my hand and propel us towards the spectral murmurs of the past that beckoned from the dim recesses of the library. Stay close, I urged, feeling the weight of our predicament slip through my fingers like sand. Camila followed my lead, but her gaze darted around, taking in fragments of an ancient world that was coming alive, revealing itself in the flickering light. Is this real? She gasped, shock weaving through her voice. I think it's a manifestation of your past, I breathed, rushing to keep up with her as she navigated the disarray of books now swirling and fluttering in the air like startled birds. The room had transformed, once a foreboding corner of secrets. It had been jolted into a landscape of memories, swirling around us in hues of vulnerability and forgotten laughter. I don't remember choosing any of this, Camila murmured, her voice barely above a whisper as she reached toward a book that floated past us, fingers trembling as it hovered momentarily in midair. The gleaming title caught her eye, Forged Connections. A warmth wrapped around us then, a sliver of hope that ignited something deep within Camila. This one, it's familiar. Her gaze was transfixed, as if it held a key to a door long forgotten. But how? I don't understand. Suddenly the shadows switched direction, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. The intimidating figure seemed to have regrouped, closing in outside our ephemeral refuge. I turned to Camila, my heart pounding. We can't let them catch us, not now. Not when you're so close to understanding. With renewed determination she nodded, her face set with steely resolve. What if I took that fear and turned it into strength? If I confront my memories, maybe they can't hold me captive anymore. But what if they hurt you? I breathed, an ache forming in my chest at the thought of her being wounded by the very truth she sought. What if the pain is too great? I need to know, she said softly yet fiercely, a roaring wave washing over her voice. If this is who I am, with all my imperfections and glitches, then I have to reclaim it. Before I could react, she reached out and pulled the shimmering book towards her as it began to descend, enveloping her in a radiant light that seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat. Instinctively, I reached for her, but a sudden jolt knocked me back as I collided with an unseen force. The world shifted chaotically. The bookshelves crumpled like origami, throwing us deeper into swirling echoes of laughter, betrayal, and love, phonetic shadows shifting into shapes that felt uncannily familiar. For a fleeting moment, I was engulfed by a memory of laughter tinging a summer afternoon, hauntingly similar to the melody I had shared with Camila. And then it hit me, the realization that the secrets yet untold weren't just hers. They were ours, interlaced with threads of affection and shared moments. It was not just her past that hung in the balance. Something deeper was at stake as Camila was pulled toward the beckoning light of her memories. The threatening figures resurfaced, every inch of their being positioned to strike, determination rocketing their movements. "No more games, Camila," one of them yelled. "You think you can face what haunts you? Let us see what you've really got." Panic gripped my heart. "Camila," I shouted, desperate to reach her, to anchor her to the reality outside the burgeoning tempest of her past. I stumbled higher on the waves of tumult, clawing toward her as the shadows poured in, reaching for her with cold, grasping tendrils, determined to drag her back into the abyss of what she feared. "No," I cried, adrenaline pumping through my veins. If they took a single piece of her away, I knew my own heart would shatter alongside her. Just as I felt the breath of inevitability creeping on my neck, Camila turned back to me, her eyes ablaze with defiance and fiery resolve. In that bewitching moment, she became the embodiment of the strength I always believed she possessed. But still, something small nestled away inside me trembled at the prospect of exposure of love, intertwined within the shadowed secrets. "Don't lose hope," Camila exclaimed, her voice cutting through the rushing tumult like a phoenix rising from ash. "I will bring this to light." And with that, the book she clutched shimmered and began to glow, illuminating our isolating shadows, dispelling the chilling grasp of our pursuers momentarily. I felt the darkness recoiling from her light, but I also felt the weight of it still pressing down, plotting to reclaim its prize. But was this the beginning of liberation for Camila, or the prelude to an unimaginable sacrifice? In that breathless instant, I found myself gripped by a new revelation unbeknownst to me until now. I wasn't merely standing at her side in this fight. I was entangled in her journey, caught in the tide of her past as it unfurled, carrying me helplessly into its depths. But as the shadows loomed and the light sparkled against it, a shattering decision weighed in the air. Time stretched as if holding its breath, as the veil between truth and deceit threatened to shatter once and for all. The light radiating from Camila's grasp wove a thin veil between us and the encroaching shadows. Each pulse of bright energy seemed to illuminate not only our surroundings, but also the frayed edges of my heart. I had thought I understood her depth, her battles, but now I realized how little I truly knew. There was so much more beyond the surface, darkness swirling like ink beneath the waters of her conscious self. "Camila," I shouted again, my voice a lifeline reaching toward her, desperate to hold on to even the tiniest shred of hope. As she stood anchored in that shimmering glow, I saw her wavering, her strength battling with the memories threatening to envelop her. The figures lunged again, the air thick with a terrible certainty. "Camila, you have to pull back," I urged, knowing that the deeper she ventured into her memories, the harder it would be for her to resurface. But Camila's determination gleamed brighter than ever. "No, I won't hide anymore. This darkness has twisted my past, but it will not define my future." With fierce conviction, she opened the book wide, revealing pages filled with intricate illustrations of joyous moments, a sun-dappled picnic, laughter echoing in a garden, the soft touch of a hand against the small of her back, love painted in each delicate brushstroke. I felt my breath catch as those moments flickered like cherished photographs breaking free from a tumultuous dream. Each one resonated within me, and for the first time, I began to glean the essence of the woman I was fighting for. The depth of her happiness was shadowed by the loss of trust, haunted by faces belonging to those who never deserved her light. Then the veil of calm shattered. One of the men charged, his brow set in determination, his words a razor that sliced through the air. "You think you can make peace with ghosts, Camila? They'll never let you go." I surged forward, breaking through the invisible barrier encasing me in desperation. "They're not ghosts, they're pieces of you. You can embrace them." My voice echoed around the chamber, cracking under the strain of emotion. Camila's eyes flickered, wavering momentarily between fear and resolve, and just like that, the light around her intensified. "Let them see me for who I am. I choose to confront this. I choose to be whole." And with that, she closed her eyes, the book clutched tightly against her bosom. I watched in awe as vibrant trails of energy streamed from the pages, darting outward until they cocooned the figures advancing upon us. The tendrils of darkness writhed, momentarily arrested by her shining magnificence, but I could see the shadows intensifying, feeding on her fears. "Camila, what are you doing?" I shouted, panic rising anew, but she remained transfixed, a steady heartbeat in the chaos. For a breathtaking instant, I felt the connection cementing between us. It pulsed like an ancient rhythm I had not known I craved. But just as quickly, it bent under the weight of impending dread. I'm bringing them to light. I'm bringing them home, she whispered, her voice laced with conviction and an unspoken finality. And then, like the final click of a lock falling into place, the realization struck me with gut-wrenching clarity: she was not just fighting the memories. She was prepared to harness them. What if this volatile convergence meant more than reclaiming her past? What if she was willing to sacrifice her safety for the sake of my search into hers? Panic surged as I bounded forward against the encroaching shadows. Camila, wait! But my feet seemed stitched to the floor, rooted in the ripping conflict of hope and despair that unfurled before me. The shadows seemed to curl around her, their whispers morphing into shouts, then screams that echoed of betrayal and hurt. You will not survive this. You will become one of us. A shudder ran through me, crushing my heart as every dark word was a reminder of what lay at stake. The figures clawed for her, relentless, grotesque facsimiles of lost potential and broken trust. Camila, you can fight this. We can fight this together. But instead of retreating, she stretched out her arms, embracing the chaos, defiance coursing through her veins. I am not afraid, she declared, her voice sharp and true like glass slicing through the air. In that moment, a rift opened in the shadowy mass, revealing a flickering glimmer of light beyond. It seemed to reflect a truth that transcended her darkest memories: hope, clarity, the promise of a future unmarred. With bated breath, I realized the impossibility of the situation taking form. Her willingness to embrace even the darkest parts of her soul meant she faced a path filled with potential release, but also potential devastation. As the shadows surged forward, I felt my heart clench, knowing all too well that in every moment of love also lay the faintest whisper of betrayal. Camila, I cried, taking a step closer through the tempest, terror clawing at my throat. Don't let go of who you are. We can unearth this together. In that single moment, as her resolve strengthened the light around her, something broke. The shadows recoiled violently, as if they had been shot by a gun of conviction. Everything shifted, swirling like the tempest of emotions between us. And in that split second, the familiar sounds of laughter faded into silence. A figure emerged from the shadows, and as my heart plummeted to my stomach, I realized who it was: the one individual I had believed lost, shattered by treachery, a piece of my own past that changed everything. With trembling hands and a heart racing in fear, a stunned realization filled me. Not only were we intertwined in Camila's past, but my own secrets lay tangled within the shadows, shattering my own perception of safety as I stood helpless in the midst of chaos. Delilah, the name escaped my lips like a soft prayer, a desperate gasp against the weight of fading light. And as her familiar face emerged, framed by the darkness and light both, I felt the pull of lost loves, broken promises, and unanswered questions encircle us all, clinging to the fragile hope that held the key to both our futures. The world around me shifted in a disorienting blur, every pulse of light contrasting sharply with the encroaching shadows. Delilah, her image too vivid to be a mere figment of my imagination, stepped forward, and I resisted the instinct to retreat. I thought I had buried my past, yet here it thrived in the darkest corner of my heart, channeling the very fears I thought I had outrun. Why are you here? I croaked, the question tinged with disbelief laced with pain. The air thickened with unspoken truths, binding me to something far beyond myself, a past narrative I had tried so hard to eliminate. Delilah's eyes, once a mirror of shared laughter and intimacy, were now clouded, hardened by what lay between us. You didn't think you could just forget, did you? Her voice cracked like the ground beneath us. Your memories don't let go so easily. They cling to you, waiting to be confronted. I was adrift in a tumultuous sea of emotion, the waves of sorrow crashing over me as the shadows writhed closer to Camila. Camila, stay strong, I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady, but it trembled under the weight of fear. She still stood resolute, the golden light shimmering, flickering between us, almost as if she could feel the distant connection to Delilah. Why are you here? I repeated, panic proving more demanding than curiosity, gnawing at me. What do you want from me? My heart raced as uncertainty coursed through my veins, a cocktail of regret mixing with the overwhelming need to protect both women before me. I want you to face what you fear the most, Delilah said, stepping into the vulnerability of my past. You think I'm just a shadow, something to be dismissed, but I am part of your story, a chapter you tried to erase. In essence, she was right. My history with her was woven with reckless choices, decisions that cast ripples not only in my life but in the fabric of Camila's pain. A memory sparked a moment that had threatened to crush the very foundation of who I was. This was never meant to hurt you, I whispered to Delilah, my voice breaking. Yet here we are, she replied, her gaze steely yet tinged with a vulnerability that shocked me. You might be fighting for Camila, but this battle is as much yours as it is hers. I turned to Camila, her fierce energy swirling defiantly against the shadows. While the flickers of light seemed to grow dimmer, she was becoming the beacon I had never anticipated. Camila, please don't believe their lies. They want to pull you down with them. I called out, the desperation clawing at my throat. Her grip around the book shifted. I could see the burden threatening to crack her resolve. They speak truth as much as they speak lies, she said, her voice trembling. I have lived in fear of their proclamations, ever since I was a child. Just as the figures advanced, I sensed something shifting within Camila. Her vulnerability surged outward, a magnetic force drawing the shadows away and forcing Delilah to confront her, just as I had been thrust into the turmoil of exposing my own failings. In that charged moment I understood. My history was interdependent with Camila's struggles. If I was to stand by her, I couldn't just fight her demons, I needed to face mine too. The shadows closed in, their whispers our collective fears. You both cannot run from what you've done. You are bound by the weight of your betrayals. They taunted, a chorus feeding on our darkest memories like vultures circling. But then something remarkable happened. Amidst the swirling chaos, Delilah extended her hand, not in anger but in solidarity, her expression shifting from hostility to something softer. We can face them together, she breathed, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the girl I had loved, the one who saw potential in the shadows rather than mere darkness. Together, I echoed, realizing what had been missing. Our shared pain formed a bridge over the chasm of despair. It was a daring venture to stand united. Camila, Delilah, if we combine our strength we can disarm them. Light burst forth from Camila as she opened her eyes, igniting a connection that surged through me. We are stronger together, she affirmed, her courage compelling us forward, illuminating the path shrouded in uncertainty. Yet, the shadows recoiled fiercely, spurred on by our united claim to hope. You think unity will save you? They jeered. You think light can banish us? You will always carry the weight of your decisions. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled. The shimmering barrier that had separated us from the shadows faltered, a crack like a raw division running deep into the earth. We must hurry, Camila shouted, but as I moved closer, intent on embracing this newfound bond, a familiar chill slithered through the air, and an unexpected figure emerged from the darkness, my father, his expression a mask of strained regret. Part of your burden is mine to bear, he said, his voice echoing with a melancholy that scraped at my soul like a distant reminder of failure. You cannot leave this place without acknowledging the truth of our connection. I faltered, memories flooding in waves. There lay years of pain, lost opportunities and deep-seated grief carving their legacy within me. You? No. Not you. I gasped, the weight of shame slicing through the remnants of the tranquil unity we had fought so hard to forge. The silence fell heavy upon us, shadows and light swirling in a spectral dance. I realized that this fight had grown far beyond what I imagined. Unraveling the threads of my heart would shatter the foundation we desperately sought to build. Together? Delilah asked, her voice softening, breaking through the echoing uncertainty. But as I turned to face my confounding family history, all hope seemed to hang by a fragile thread, poised delicately on the edge of ruin. The shadows swirled around us, each whisper clawing at my sanity, threatening to drown out the light we had fought so hard to create. But within that clamor, a new strength pulsed from Camila. She stood resolute, her hand still clutching that shimmering book, her lifeline to the truth she was finally ready to confront. Back away, she shouted, the command ringed with newfound authority. The shadows faltered momentarily, as if they too feared her defiance. I watched in awe, feeling a swell of pride as she faced the echoes of her past, ready to reclaim what they had stolen from her. Delilah's presence was unsettling, a reminder of mistakes I clawed through in my memory. I'm here, Camila. I'm with you, I urged, the weight of my fear pressing heavily on my chest. Whatever this is, we can face it together. But even as I spoke, the shimmer of camaraderie began to shine a little less bright. Delilah and I had our own volatile history to confront, one laced with heartbreak and disappointment. My father's words hung heavy in the air, nearly tangible in the chaos that encircled us, reminding me of the familial ties I had desperately sought to escape. Why are you here? I demanded, focusing on him in a bid to wrest control of the moment. You abandoned us, you abandoned me. My voice trembled with a rage I couldn't suppress, anger mixed with hurt. How could he show his face now, demanding attention when the crumbling of our shared past stood before us? I bear my own culpability, he replied softly, a glimmer of pain sparking within his eyes. And until you face it, you will be bound by the same darkness that has followed you both. His words struck with the force of iron, echoing the sentiments of the shadows. Fear does not define you, he continued, his urgency apparent. You cannot run from what lies within, but you also need not shoulder it alone. You deserve to break free. That haunting pledge flickered against the backdrop of our turmoil, drawing a thread between Camila's and my tumultuous histories. It was time to unearth the depths of those hidden truths, but in doing so, I felt every fear I had long buried flare to life, its echoes beckoning me to allow myself to be vulnerable. Together, Delilah. Don't you see? Camila's voice cut through my own chaos, fierce as fire, turning the conversation back to unity. If we want to break free, we must confront our truths together. Surveying the shadows, I saw their forms beginning to flicker, wavering at the intrusion of our combined light. Facing our past doesn't mean we have to remain shackled to it, I urged, turning my gaze to Camila and then to Delilah. We can break the cycle of pain that threatens to bind us. The figure clustered in the darkness shifted restlessly, as if sensing the shift in our energy. You think facing your fears will set you free? You are nothing without us. They screamed, their voices writhing in rage. We will define ourselves, Camila declared with fierce conviction. My past doesn't have to dictate my future. She turned to me, her eyes scanning my face, searching for any glimmer of the trust one had tried to forge in the chaos. Do you believe that? I do, I replied, my heart racing in tandem with her emerging resolve. It's the shadows that will be vanquished in the light of truth. With her strength renewed, Camila nodded, and I felt the power of unity surge through the air surrounding us. It tethered us all, delicate yet unyielding, granting us an intimate safety. In that moment, as I locked eyes with Delilah, an unexpected wave of compassion washed over me. I don't want to forget you, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Your presence carved part of who I am, and for a long time I blamed you for the hurt. But I need you to fight with us in this. A flicker of surprise caught in her gaze. Was it vulnerability breaking through the steel? I never wanted to hurt you, Delilah replied, her tone softening. I was just trying to find my own way. Before I could respond, the shadows writhed again, their claws reaching for us, desperate to extinguish our light. I felt a jolt of fear strike my chest, but it was quickly dismissed by the tide of our pact. Now, Camila shouted, raising the book high, and with a fervent outcry, together. The very walls seemed to cower at our rallying cry. A wave of energy displaced from her hands, illuminating our surroundings with incandescent brilliance. The light swelled outward in waves, colliding with the darkness, illuminating the figures in grotesque detail, revealing them, not as omnipotent antagonists, but as the broken echoes of our own pasts. Frightened and yearning to be free too, the shadows hissed and writhed, but the warmth of our combined presence pushed them further back. You are not our fear, I cried, finding strength in the collective embrace of our pasts coming together, my father's and Delilah's entwined with Camila's. We will not let you consume us. Our bond served as a shield, and with one final push, Camila unleashed a brilliant wave of light, nourishing our spirits while reminding the shadows of the power that comes with acceptance and forgiveness. Light and darkness intertwined, chaotic and tumultuous, the echoes of our histories meeting in a fierce collision. But I could feel the shadows begin to relent before the brightness of Camila's warmth. Eventually, the chaos stilling, a calm folded over us and the shadows retreated, their once menacing forms diminishing into the ether, leaving only the vestiges of the mistakes and memories behind, laying bare the path of reconciliation before us. Breathlessly we stood there together, the rhythm of our joined hearts pulsing like a song of healing. In that euphoria, a profound understanding settled in my chest, filling me with a raw acceptance. Camila turned to me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, vulnerable yet unwavering. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered. "Thank you for standing with me when the world seemed dark." "You've always held that light within you," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "I just took a little while to see it." Delilah stepped closer, placing her hand on mine, her warmth breaking through the fog of bitterness, stitching a tapestry unbroken by our earlier choices. "We're ready to let go of the darkness," she echoed, "and embrace a future of hope." Around us, the world began to shimmer with new possibilities, a sense of closure lingering in the air. The moments we fought for in that struggle felt deeply imprinted on our souls, and the time for silence was finally over. As I gazed at Camila, the dawn of anticipation filled my chest, the promise of a new beginning reflected in her luminous gaze. Together we had conquered the churning tides of darkness, emerging into a sphere of healing and rebirth. With a smile that felt like gravity itself, she whispered, "Let us change our story." And right there with her, I felt a sense of purpose arise, claiming our narrative, woven not with fear but with threads of acceptance and love cultivated through the shadows, ready to take the leap into whatever awaited beyond the walls of our past. Together, always. And as the first rays of sunlight streamed through the remnants of our turmoil, illuminating our paths anew, I smiled, knowing our journey had just begun.